Dig, are we rolling? Or? Oh, great.
Sick. Oh, amazing.
We'll leave this in.
Yeah.
We don't really give formal introductions. Like, sometimes it's like, hey, what's your name? And it's like, when do you repeat your name?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? You never repeat your name.
Maybe we'll make you do it.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Hugh.
It's awkward, isn't
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome, Hugh.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I haven't been on another podcast before.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been on a lot of mine with Guy.
Yep.
And it's cool to have a three body. I'm not used to having that dynamic, and I feel like it's good for conversation. So
Yeah.
pumped to be here.
Yeah, we're big fans of the Deep Dive podcast. I've got that name correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
got it correct.
I knew I did. I can't forget that well. I love the way you guys have been deep diving, and I think some of those topics that you've been bringing up are pretty uncomfortable for young men and very, very required to speak about. And so I really take my hat off to you guys and what you're doing.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's been a bit of a mission for me recently to tap more into that world and show that vulnerability is a strength as a man. I think we all can soften more as men and be more open about things. So that's the vision, and appreciate you boys for listening and being on that journey.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Some amazing conversations in there, and definitely relate to a lot of it. And to hear, two like-minded individuals and of the same age and backgrounds actually speaking on it, I think gives a lot of people in similar situations and demographics a lot of strength. So, yeah, I think you guys should, keep doing what you're doing. I think you guys will be doing amazing things for a lot of listeners. I believe that.
I think likewise, and this is the thing that's so cool, having this chat is because I see what you guys are doing, I see what me and Guy are doing, and it's very hand in hand. And even through what you're doing with your business and your running, it's very inspiring. That's why I'm so pumped to be here, because I looking up to what you guys are doing. I'm like, this is very cool. So I feel like it's a very reciprocal relationship in what we have, which is cool. Very rare.
It is rare.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And likewise, with what you're doing with your business, and I can't wait to dive into it today. I think there's so much value for those listening, and I think the whole reason Jack and I started this podcast was to have people like yourself that are young, ambitious, going through, the roller coaster, and certainly been like that for you. Yeah. So I mean, maybe we rip the Band-Aid off and dive in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's deep dive.
Yeah.
You just hijacked our podcast.
So boys, it's fun now.
I love it. And I hope, from hearing your podcast, you are a very good interviewer, and yeah, I can't wait. I think we're definitely going to be on the receiving end of some great questions from yourself.
I'm going to be diving in, boys. I love good questions. So
Beautiful.
So maybe let's start with creative converters.
Mm-hmm.
What does a day-to-day look like for you at the moment?
Yeah.
And what is creative converters?
Yeah, probably good to start there, and we can get to the day-to-day. Creative converters is a business. We create TikTok content for brands all around the world. We're essentially Australia's first full-service TikTok agency.
Crazy.
But it's been a bit of a journey to get there, and it started in the bedroom of one of my best mates' houses with another friend, literally shooting content on an iPhone and selling it to brands and flogging videos off for about $300 and high-fiving each other and going, wow, people are buying this and it's working online.
That's awesome.
To now working with, some of Australia's biggest brands and working on some pretty amazing campaigns with some pretty cool people. But that kind of 3.5 year journey has been a roller coaster for sure. And very lucky to have some amazing people around me that have kind of always been there on that journey. And it kind of came from the idea that content was shifting, and we came in at a time where influencers were super prevalent in that whole marketing strategy for e-commerce brands and very perfect curated content. But we always had the vision that content should be raw, should be authentic. And we started creating content with a vision to be relatable and to build trust with customers for brands. And one of the first clients we landed was the Oodie, which was this big wearable blanket. I'm sure you guys have seen it.
Definitely seen those Facebook ads.
Yeah. And he was able to spend a fair bit of money behind the content we were making. So we learnt extremely fast to use data to kind of validate our decision making behind creative ideas, which was pretty rare to kind of combine creativity and data at that kind of spend level. So,
So that almost acted.
I had a great joke, but it's not great anymore. But I said you are the creative converters. So.
Exactly. There you go.
It's in the name. Sorry,
It's in the name.
No. It's a real dad joke, and I'm like, I've lost the tone on this dad joke. Damn it, nah.
One day, mate, when you've got a few kids, it'll land.
Exactly. I'll wait.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? No, I got it. So I guess the Udi for you guys was almost like a real-time case study
Yeah.
for you guys to figure out,
The offering. Yeah. Literally. And how it worked. And we were very lucky to be kind of mentored by that first client, Davey. He kind of taught us what he was looking at and what he needed from us. So it was a massive learning experience. And
sounds like he put a lot of trust in you guys.
yeah, he did. He really did. So he saw something and we were very lucky for that. And then that case study attracted hundreds of brands.
It's a great first client.
Yeah.
For those listening, like that's the Udis. Like I've seen some ginormous figures like posted online what they turned over.
Yeah. When we worked with him, he was doing some pretty decent numbers, like probably 2 mil a month.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
within 2 years, and we were doing all the content, it's getting up to 20 mil.
Wow.
a
Incredible.
month. Yeah. It's
Wow.
mental.
Yeah.
Big numbers.
Wow. What I love is that passion that you showed, when you're selling those $300 videos. And I like to think when any business finds that passion, normally it's a sale of a product, for you it's a $300 video, like you feel like there's something going on.
Yeah. There's
And
a spark, right?
100%, no matter how small that is, whether you're selling like, your first $5 t-shirt or anything, you're like, I could probably grow this. There's that innate feeling, isn't there?
100%. And it's also that idea of like, I can actually do this. Someone believes in what I'm doing and they value this offering.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that there's so much more that you can be doing, within that, which is where it all started. And then, we were just super lucky to hire some really amazing people that were able to bring this whole thing forward with us. And we did that whole Facebook ads thing for a while and worked with e-commerce brands typically. And then, the industry shifted. COVID exploded the industry, and we were probably the only agency that these brands could work with because we had content creators shooting around Australia from home on their iPhones. So we scaled extremely fast, which was awesome, propelled us probably 5 years ahead of most people, but it had a lot of challenges. And growing fast like that and kind of cowboying it was pretty funny.
Yeah, especially in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, or working online. I would actually sneak down to the office every day because I couldn't work from home. And me and Noel would just sit there on Zoom and talk to clients and manage the team, and with Gabby, who's our general manager, and learnt a lot. But my God, there was some points in time where I'm looking back now, I'm like, don't know how we even did that or like why we were doing it like that.
How many people were you managing at the height of that?
Yeah, probably about like nearly 40 people.
Wow.
But we were doing it all wrong. And it all came crashing down very fast.
Wow.
In what ways?
Our costs blew out through the roof. And I'll be very honest, like it got to a point where we were losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every month.
Wow.
For 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And we were like in the red. And there was a conversation where we pulled together the senior team and we had a very serious chat. And we went, this is kind of the position we're in. We have to do something drastically. And the next day we fired about 10, 15 staff, which was probably the hardest day of our lives, and restructured the whole business and had a very hard think over many weekends and completely pivoted our offering towards TikTok. And very lucky that happened. It's weird saying that now, but looking back, it was probably like one of the best things that could have happened to us because we're now in a place where we've never been healthier as a business, and we've rehired more people, but it's taken us a good year to get back from that. And it's very, very lucky that I got the people around me that can drive that forward and make it happen.
And talk us a little bit through that day of the firings. Like, I'm sure these people would have felt like family to you.
Very much so.
I can relate much so with like a small business, the people you take on, you see, you brush shoulders all the time. You're not a big corporate business where there's like different floors and it's for the most part, it's pretty communal.
Yeah.
So what were those conversations like?
It was very hard. And I think it's what I was very shocked by was people's response. They were very understanding and very much like wanting to be there for us and understand the position that we were in. And I was just like, my heart was kind of like, although it was heartbreaking, my heart was kind of full by the end of the day to see how people would actually respond in that situation. There was no bad blood. I was like, wow. I thought that these people were like feeling like they might have been taken for a ride, and they were all super lovely, and even some of them worked for the next month for free almost.
Wow.
Just to hand over clients and make sure everything was okay.
That definitely goes to the culture that you must have built. You know, I'm sure. Like, I mean, yeah, it must be incredible for people to do things like that.
Yeah. It was a tough day, but I think I learned a lot on that day about myself and my business partners. Noah's someone that can handle things like that so well. And his presence in that moment just calmed me so much. I thought it was kind of the end of the world for a moment when we had that convo, and then just there was no thought I could tell in his mind of this is going to end. It's no, we're going to make it work. And I think because we took on this massive lease where most businesses shut down, that were our competitors in that kind of period in time where the industry was changing away from Facebook and costs were rising online. We had to keep our doors open because we had this massive lease that we took on. So without that, we wouldn't be where we are now, which is crazy.
Wow.
Something to be said for having that unwavering belief in what you're doing. Almost more so than anything else in business.
Yeah.
That could almost be the number one, key factor.
Big time.
For making it.
Fully believe that. I think that we were talking about this in almost rock climbing. We were talking about that doco, free solo.
Just no doubt that.
No doubt. Yeah. You're going to make it.
Yeah.
And I think when you believe in something that much and you're around other people that believe in it, you're kind of all accelerating a million miles an hour and you're all coming together, and it's like a rocket ship that just takes off.
Well, and when you believe in something that much too, it's infectious and it rubs off on other people. And that's often when, now instead of just, one person working on something, you've now got a full team, which you were able to build, which,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the ability to get through the hurdles when you have that unwavering mindset, because you'll get hit from every which direction, which you certainly did, having to fire 15 people in one day. Most people, as you said, your competitors were collapsing, having to do similar tasks. But with you guys, with that belief, that's why you're still here today by the sounds of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you go. What you say?
So what would you say your role is then, I suppose, in Creative Converters?
Yeah, it's an interesting role. I'm kind of like a leader, but also my job is to essentially grow the business. So I'm like the quote unquote director of growth or co-founder. And my core focus for a lot of my role has been in acquiring the right client and the biggest, best client that we can find, and making sure that they're happy and that the team's doing their job, and making sure that all the campaigns are going smoothly, and making sure that our costs aren't going crazy.
How do you go about that? Do you get the yellow pages out, flick through? What's the process?
Yeah, I actually record a lot of ads.
Yeah.
So I'll shoot a lot of ads in a podcast format with my business partner, and then we turn those into ads that people will then click in. I'll have like discovery calls with people, and they normally come to us, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
A lot of my recent work in trying to work with some of the bigger brands has been in just reaching out to them and building relationships, and like literally cold outreaching through LinkedIn and email and
amazing,
calling them and stuff.
And you're 24 years old, and when you go to some of these big companies, like, what are their reactions? Like,
yeah, I get that. It's a question I get asked a lot, and it's actually an advantage now, because these big traditional companies, like we're talking about Kathmandu, very traditional brands that are almost like out of date, and they look at us and they go, wow, these guys really get TikTok. And I use that as an advantage.
100%.
So like I literally quote unquote in my cold outreach email say that we're the Gen Z TikTok agency.
Yeah.
Everyone is under the age of 25, lives and breathes the platform, and they eat it up. And they love it. Wow. Because they just have no idea how to get on the platform.
Yeah. And that's a big theme of this podcast, is like TikTok's really shifted the landscape, and I'm very interested and keen to pick your brains on all things TikTok. Yeah. I've done it once, and I can't wait to do it again. You are the guru. No, I mean that.
Don't know about that.
I don't know. Kathmandu think that. I think that. But yeah, I guess, I'll probably shush for a minute. And yeah, what do you think with like TikTok changing the landscape in general?
Yeah, I saw it have a massive impact on our business really positively. So the first video that we ever posted got over 2.5 million views, and we got over 1,000 DMs that night.
Well, just the first video.
Literally.
Just rolled out of
It was
bed.
crazy.
What was the video?
It was like our staff coming back to the office after COVID. And it was like people drinking, and like I was like had shit all over the table. I was wearing like baggy clothes and stuff, and the girls are doing all this stupid stuff. And it was just funny, like relatable, and it went viral. It wasn't even about like what we did.
Wow.
We had all these people like, oh, this is so cool. Like I want to work with you, or like I want a job. So it was really cool. And after that, I was like, okay, there's something here. And we all had a chat internally. We're like, all right, how can we turn this into an offering? We validated that we can do it. And all the clients that we're working with, they're just like literally blowing up, like getting millions of views. We've got a brand that's getting over 5.5 million views every month.
Wow.
Posting every single day.
Crazy.
And I personally think that it's already had a massive influence on the way that people consume content, just with the structure of the content. Like it's fast, it's snappy, it's engaging, it's real. It's not like a perfectly curated photo like on Instagram. It's like authentic. And with that, I think the platform itself is built in a way where it's so engaging that people don't want to leave. And so with that, there's an opportunity because your market are living and breathing on the platform. And so I personally think that TikTok's going to have a massive shift in the way that we operate as a brand, and it's going to shift commerce in the way that commerce happens. So you can tell I'm really passionate about this.
Yeah.
Mate, the guru, I'm telling you.
So like when you think about it, like you boys probably woke up this morning and had a run and then went to your favorite coffee shop and you had an amazing chat at this coffee shop, right?
How'd you know that? The guru of everything.
Fortune teller. But what I'm trying to say is like as a human being, like we're a creature of habit, and you're going to like a spot and it's a community, right? That's what's happening on TikTok. And the difference between TikTok and a coffee shop or going to your favorite like shop to buy clothing is that instead of like talking to someone and getting advice on what coffee you want to buy or what shirt is going to look good on you or what you should be buying, you're getting that through a platform through your peers. And people are living and breathing and using a product. And so consumers are seeing someone use a product and how it works. They're living vicariously through them. And they're making like conscious consumer decisions on the platform. Like for Valentine's Day the other day, instead of going on Google, I searched in TikTok and it came up with all these different ideas from guys talking about stuff to do. And I was like, oh, I'll pick that one.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow. There's a lot of trust there as well. I mean, you can go on like TripAdvisor and read some 2-year-old post on, oh, this restaurant's really nice. Or you can see some guy your age, you know, maybe with similar values, like giving an amazing review in 15 seconds.
Yeah, literally. And it's like, yeah, instead of like kind of winging it and going a few websites and going, oh, that looks good. You see someone else that's doing it. You're like, okay, I can actually decide what I want.
Yeah, it's kind of become a marketplace in that sense now, hasn't it? And I suppose all the shop features are just about to come in as well.
Definitely,
buy it on app and
yeah, literally. So we see the Western TikTok traditionally like 2 to 3 years behind the Chinese version of TikTok, Douyin. And what's happening in China is that these people are live streaming and making hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales in a day. And I was talking to a lady who we kind of do distribution deals with different brands, and she buys Australian made brands and distributes them through China, but she's an agency owner. And they literally have an influencer set up, like in a setup like this, live streaming for like 8 hours a day.
Wow.
It's mental. It's crazy. And people have one-click purchases through the platform. So
it's so easy to check out. It's so accessible.
Instead of pressing like, it's buy.
Bing.
Yeah.
Have you ever been on the Chinese version?
I've only seen stuff like articles and like YouTube stuff, and but it's actually informing a lot of what we're doing to like create new strategies for brands here in Australia, like taking inspo and going, okay, it's a very different market here, which is one thing to keep in mind, but there are things that you can do on the platform that will obviously benefit you.
And speaking of brands, you know, we have a lot of small businesses reach out and, you know, ask for sort of tips and tricks, and Jack and I, we try share some, but we don't have the wealth and knowledge that you do. So I'd love to hear maybe if you were starting a brand tonight,
Yeah.
maybe us three as business partners
Yeah.
about to blow up on TikTok, what are we doing?
Yeah. The first thing to think about is, what's your why? And that's a bit of a weird question like to ask to start with, but
I like it.
when you know the answer to that question, that's the core message that you need to be communicating through every single piece of content that you create. Because without that, you don't have a brand. And second to that is, if you're going to create content, it must provide someone with a sense of value. So if people don't get value from watching a piece of content, they're not going to watch it for longer, multiple times, or share it with their friends, right? And the algorithm is based on watch rate and completion rate and engagement in videos. So as simple as what I'm saying now sounds, it's the foundation for a really successful piece of content and a very successful brand. And I would think about starting at value and then thinking about maybe building out 4 or 5 key content pillars that you can ideate under, and sit down on a Sunday night and for every week go, all right, for product information, I'm going to build out 3 videos. 1 might be a trend, 2 might be me talking to camera.
Mm-hmm.
For community, I'm going to do a vox pop and walk down the street and interview people. For, I don't know, what's another one? Like for you guys, color might be a whole pillar, and it could be someone walking down the street and there might be a jump cut of like 7 different colors and different cuts of hoodies while he's walking.
Mm-hmm.
So build out 4 or 5 pillars
Yeah.
and consistently create content under each pillar every week and test and see what works. And when something works, dissect the video and go, why?
Yep.
And ask yourself that question and then recreate it and test it again and again and again.
Mm.
And you see the most successful people, they have their own niche in TikTok because they've figured out what works for them. And then they're building on that consistently and building these positive feedback loops.
Yep. Well, and that's
Makes sense. You said it extremely simple manner, which I think people are going to be able to digest really well.
It's important because I think people get overwhelmed by TikTok. It's like, how do I create all these different ideas, right? And it's hard to think about creating 30 ideas a month, or even 10, right? But if you can break it down and then see what other people are doing well on the platform, maybe remix what they're doing, make some of your own stuff, then you'll find success.
I think the craziest thing, for me about TikTok is, I'll jump on like some public transport and I'll see like the youth doing TikTok dances like in the train.
Yeah.
Just everywhere you go. And I don't think an app of any sorts really ever had this sort of like mainstream effect. I've heard from a lot of different people that work within primary schools that like supposedly kids are just doing TikTok dances like all day, every lunchtime. I don't even know if they're playing sport that much anymore.
Yeah.
And I just find that incredible, like the revolution.
Yeah, me too. It's crazy how it's just had such a profound impact on like a lot of things. Because I've always seen TikTok from the business realm, and my journey's been in kind of convincing people that it's more than just the dancing,
Definitely.
Walking into these old businesses and shaking the hand and going, let's talk TikTok.
They're like, oh, what?
Yeah.
My daughter.
I suppose I've kind of neglected that side because I've wanted to, but it has had such a crazy impact on that next generation. And even that, like talking about my little brother, like we'll watch a movie as a family and he'll be on TikTok scrolling while watching. And I think the scary thing for that next generation is just learning to switch off. It's going to be really hard.
100%.
Because its stimulation's hectic. It's there, right?
I think like when I grew up, and we're all this very similar age, it was like Facebook was the main thing, and you get shown what your friends were doing. Hence, like, your friend would be like eating a burger and you'd be like, man, like, hope that tastes good. Or like, I'm going to get one of those soon.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was it. I don't even think there was news reports. There was like barely any sport. It was literally just your friends.
Status updates.
Status updates.
Yeah. Like for a rate.
Like for a rate. Like they got
Jesse's a Chadston.
like working hard in Hoyts. Whatever.
Checking at Hungry Jack's, get free Wi-Fi.
Correct. Now we're talking, right? So like that was all that was going on for like 3 years.
Yeah.
But I've thought about this deeply. A child today, the youth today, are jumping on TikTok, and the amount of things, as you've explained really well, Hugh, is like you're looking at engaging piece of content after engaging piece of content, and you could get through 100 within half an hour. And we didn't consume 100 pieces of that type of content in 6 months a year, really.
No. Yeah. It's mental, isn't it? Yeah.
So I think these kids' brains are going to be really differently wired to how ours are, and I think we're already seeing that. But again, I don't know exactly how that's going to be shown within society. But I think we're going to start to see it more and more.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
How do you go with navigating a landscape and an industry that's always shifting so quickly?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think our superpower is like to always stay on the cutting edge, and probably the easiest way to do that is to hire young. It's always been our vision.
Well said.
So these people that we're hiring, they're like literally embodying it and doing it every day. And I was saying before that we hired someone who came from the brand side, and she was a bit younger, but she kind of came in and changed the way that we did things. And so, you know, I'm not always going to know what's next, but I know that someone will, and just to make sure that we have the right people. But I suppose it's also to kind of always have that idea that this isn't just one business. It's not like a rigid way of doing things, and that you need to be flexible and be open to changing offering. When we changed our offering, I was like, I've got so good at learning how to pitch this. How am I going to figure out how this works?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of where my question came from. I just can imagine it be like
shifting gears.
Exhausting, I think is probably the right word. Like you finally figure out your offering, and then TikTok's changed their algorithm, and all this other content's going bonkers, and you're like, I've got to change my offering again.
Yeah, literally. I think you kind of have to, right? Like the brands that are successful do, and learn how to.
Sounds like through championing your employees though, and especially your younger staff, that's a great way to go about it. And it's probably take a lot off your plate as well.
Definitely. And I think there's something to be said in like practicing what you preach. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable developing an offering or selling something that I don't wholeheartedly believe in. And the fact that we could do it ourselves and see the value come for our brands before taking it to a client meant that I knew how to sell it because I'd actually seen the benefits for myself, and I've lived that experience. So we'd always like validate an offering on our own brands before taking it to a client. It's probably the advantage that we do have.
Yeah.
And speaking about sort of diversifying, moving fast with all these trends, you've also ventured into a new app, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm blown away by like what you're trying to do there. I'd love for you to dive deep, as you do well, Hugh, into that app.
Yeah. So probably I don't know if I explained this properly to you boys. I kind of just told you I was doing an app.
You got a pretty good in-depth look at it, I feel like.
Yeah, you saw kind of the prototype. But, where it came from was, so when I met my business partner, Noah, we were both creatives. We were both pursuing a music career. And when we were in that, we found it very hard to monetize that career, right? You know, on Spotify, we had over 1 million listens on music, but weren't making any money. And we're like, it would be really cool to be able to help creatives monetize their skills. And so that's always been a vision for CC. You know, we've always wanted to empower the creator. Mm-hmm. And right now, I don't necessarily think that's happening on a lot of these platforms. Someone's taking a big clip, or the creator doesn't come first. And so we wanted to create a platform where creators were put first, and they could do their thing, and they could make a full-time living from it, whilst also solving some of the problems of the industry. So the problem right now in the creative industry when it comes to content apps is a brand will, you know, go to an app and request a specific brief from a specific person. And normally, because creatives is like apples and oranges, they get back something completely different to what they expected. And so there's always a disconnect. And we just had continually bad experiences with different apps out there that just gave us crappy content that we could never actually use, that cost an arm and a leg. And we knew that creator wasn't getting paid what they should get paid. So we had the idea of flipping the model on its head, where it's almost like an e-commerce platform where creators are already creating all this content. You guys are creating all this content for brands. Every day there's billions of content creators out there that are uploading photos, videos, TikTok, Instagram, everything. But brands don't get access to it and can't buy the rights to it and don't actually have one place where they can get that. So the idea is that content creators just create heaps of content for brands, tag them, and the brands will have their own little page that they can go and select and buy what they want. And creators can set their price. So it means that, you know, the creators are empowered, but the brands are getting a heap of native content that they can use in all their marketing campaigns. It doesn't cost them an arm and a leg. And it's like a one-stop shop.
I think it's an incredible idea, man. And I think from being in the industry, people are buying these gums. They're tagging the brands. They love the brands. So the next evolution, if they could be paid to like continue to love these brands, it just seems to make so much sense.
Yeah. And I have a big philosophy that the best way to get your content is from your customers, because, you know,
That's everything you've built, right?
Yeah.
That's the foundation of everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
What stage is the app at the moment?
So it's been a bit of a journey. We sunk a fair bit of cash into some developer teams that didn't necessarily work out.
You were in the US?
Yeah. Got back a prototype, sunk hundreds of thousands of dollars into it, and wasn't what we wanted.
Love that.
So lucky enough to partner with an amazing team here in Paran, and we kind of have shared a relationship. We've got a CTO on board, and it's really propelled things back to the forefront for us.
A CTO?
Yeah, like a chief tech officer.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's leading the project with his team of developers.
Amazing.
And we just had, we got our pretty much UI back, and I think May will be the go live date for like a prototype.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll get all of our brands on there uploading their customer databases.
Do you have a name yet?
Native.
Yeah.
Makes
Native
sense.
I like it.
Makes a lot of sense.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of brands listening to this going, holy moly. Like,
I hope so.
yeah, I mean.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out.
What do you think your biggest barrier is for launching that app?
Good question. I actually really believe in it, to be honest. It's probably the one thing that I'm like, I know this is going to work. It sounds a bit arrogant,
Back
but
to that belief.
yeah,
Gotta have
it's I think when I dive into it, we've already got clients that we're talking to that are really willing to get their customers on there. And I suppose the struggle for most tech companies when they launch is, especially as a marketplace, is they'll normally have like a dominant one side. They'll normally have a lot of like people on the platform as a service, like an Uber driver,
Sure.
but that's hard to get the customers.
Yep.
But for us, we've kind of got both, because we've already got our clients through CC.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we get them on there and we can start validating that people are actually buying content and people uploading good content, then we've got a MVP, which is proven to market, and then we can raise and really take it to the next level.
Which, you know, you're right in the middle of that industry, right, with Creative Converter. So if you need to push in one of those sides, that you guys can really push it almost organically and put the word of mouth out and sort of rally up the troops in a sense and, you know, get it off the ground, which I think a lot of startups probably don't have that, you know, ability or resource.
Yeah.
It's very complimentary.
Yeah, very complimentary. Got a good resource around us that will drive it forward, and I wholeheartedly believe in the team around me. So I think it's going to work. But I think probably maybe just to answer your question, probably the biggest barrier will be to see if brands buy the content. Yeah, that'd be the biggest hurdle. So we believe that they will, because they buy it through CC, but it'll just be at a different stage where instead of having a in-house editing team doing the content, it'll be the creator.
Funny you say that. That was my one question I had when we walked out of that chat we had the other day with Jesse. I was like, I think that's going to be their biggest hurdle to overcome.
Definitely.
If they can get buy-in from those big companies.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like I've learned through CC, the confirmation bias that we have right now of how we think it's going to work, it's probably not going to be like that, to be honest. Like, we might find that we might use it as an element that feeds CC to the next level. Like, I might start pitching to the Australian Open and go, hey guys, put your QR code up, get everyone to upload their content, and we can run your marketing campaigns for the next Australian Open from all that native content. It might cost them $250,000, something like that. I don't know. But who knows? You know, it could be anything. So there's so many ways that we can make it work.
Isn't business funny like that? You can put all this time, money, you know, have a CTO and a full team working on this app and have an idea of how it's going to go, but it's never going to be as good as just starting and, you know, getting into market and figuring it out.
You're so right, dude.
And something we talk about so much is like, just start.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it only takes a company like the Australian Open to take it on, and then that's your, you know, so you're champion in a way, exactly like David Fogarty was with the Audi. It's like, hey, this is what we did. Let's scale this to the Grand Prix. Like, the next thing you know, a lot of your business model's out the window, but you've got this new business model that's stronger,
who knows? Potentially,
right?
Yeah, and it could go down that route. Like, it could go down the festival route or event route, or it could go down the e-commerce route. Who knows? So
Just got to stay open.
Yeah, just be nimble and make it work. I think that's the dream.
And, you know, if I was to describe you in one word, Hugh, I'd say open, I think. And, you know, certainly seen that in your business journey, how flexible you've been and the team's been. And I think that's why you are where you are today. And I think that's why Native will get to where it needs to go through that openness. I'd also love to talk about, you know, you as a person. I think, again, very open, transparent. Jack and I have only met you a handful of times, but we probably feel like we've known you for a handful of years.
Yeah.
Real big testament to yourself. I think maybe we'll start, you know, I think high school is a pretty scary place for some, and probably for us three here.
Yeah, definitely.
How'd you sort of get to this person you are today? Let's just ask the biggest possible question.
Yeah. It's a great question. I love that question. I've been shaped through probably some of the hardest experiences of my lives. I think the reason why I'm so open and wanting to be vulnerable is because I was around a lot of people that were almost the complete opposite of that, and I found it really hard to be around them. So in high school, I was around quite a quote unquote like toxic group of people, and in their own ways they were all beautiful human beings, and when they were in a group it was a very different dynamic, and I'm quite an emotional person and I wasn't able to hide my emotion very well. So I was already struggling mentally, but when that dynamic came on, it sent me into a pretty dark place. And there was some moments there where I had to really like search for something within that could carry me through. And there was a few particular moments that really changed my life and made me realize who I was, and you know that there was more to me than just this person playing footy and kind of just doing the whole blokey boys thing. And I had this experience where I knew I was struggling, but I didn't quite know that a few of the other boys were struggling. And one of them was really struggling to the point where I had to save his life. And it was crazy because in that moment I was like almost saving myself by saving him. And by stepping outside of my own perception and seeing someone else suffer, it was like, okay, I really have to make the change. I really have to step away from this group of people and be a leader. And that's kind of carried me into everything that I've done ever since. And I've always just had moments of like, from that moment, it's almost inspired me to always strive for more and to kind of be better as a human being. So I suppose the reason why I am today is because I've had all these different experiences that I've learned from that kind of have made me want to be a very loving, open, honest person, if that makes sense.
Sure does, man.
Wow.
We feel that as well.
Yeah. Firstly, thank you for sharing. That's to come on and be so open. That's incredible. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks for the questions. I want to ask you boys, like, for each of you, why do you think you are who you are today?
Wow, man. Yeah, it's being on the receiving end of that question. I can feel the emotion. I like to think from like my family, and I think the sort of creative journey that I've followed has been largely attributed to my mum and dad.
Wow.
Yeah, they're both artists, and my house has always been just, you know, littered with paintings and sculptures that they've made.
Amazing.
Yeah, like there hasn't really been a blank wall in my house, and I think subconsciously that was seeping in all the time. So I almost monthly I'll sit back and just go like, thank God that they were painting and, you know, playing music all through the house. And
wow.
Yeah, it's really, really, because it is such a large jump to like unlock that creative part of yourself. And I think it's within everyone. I really do. I think whether that's music or, you know, pottery, or there's always something there. Drawing, you know, we all did these things growing up.
Yeah.
But sometimes you suppress it. And, you know, because it's not the cool thing to do at school or
definitely
whatever it may be. So, yeah, I think for me, where I am now is, you know, largely attributed to my parents.
Wow. That's so lovely. It sounds like a beautiful childhood, man. Like the way that you were explaining that, I was like having visions. Like that's how I want to raise my kids. You know?
It's beautiful, man. Yeah, in a lot of ways, it certainly was, and I think I start becoming more aware of that each year that goes by. Just how beautiful it really all was. You know, being in it, I guess you don't know when it's the norm, right? That's like you grow up each year with all that around you. But now that I'm removed, I've moved out, I cherish it more and more.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can almost sense that in you, that you had amazing parents because of the way you hold yourself. Like there's definitely like being honest, there's almost like a softness to you that I don't normally experience in a lot of men that I really like aspire to be like. So,
oh man, thank you. Yeah, that's cool. Really cool. I think that's like one of the ultimate compliments I could get. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, you should hold that, man, because I think maybe in high school, like people would have seen that and thought that that was like a weakness or a quote unquote like, you know, feminine or soft thing. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing that a man can be like that.
Thank you. I think digging back to my childhood real quick, I remember I was, you know, playing up in school like, I mean, a lot of us do, and conforming, and in this particular moment I was just in class, you know, throwing pens and creating a ruckus in the classroom, and I remember the coordinator grabbed me out. He was looking through the window and he spotted me, and he goes, "You come here." And his office was literally like almost connected to the classroom, so we went straight in. He slams the door and he's just like, "What are you doing? I know you're not this type of kid." And I just started bursting into tears.
Wow.
I was uncontrollably.
The guard was let down. Yeah.
Oh, I was a mess. And I'll never forget the blinds were still open and the bell went and all the kids in the classroom came out and just saw me bursting into tears.
Wow.
But I think that why I bring that up is I think that's that softness in me. Like I don't think I am that sort of, you know, crazy mad person. I think there is a softness to me, and I reflect in those moments. You know, like I think a real sort of like, I don't know what sort of word you want to use there, like a bad, you know, rough kid would probably just look back at that coordinator and tell him to get fucked or something. That wasn't me. I was soft as butter. Yeah. So,
and that's a great thing to have.
I think so.
A lot of people would like respect that because it, like for me, like I think I could sense that I could trust you when I talk to you because you are open and you have that warmth too, which is a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
It's important.
Thank you.
And how about you, brother?
My turn.
Yeah.
Gotta follow that. Very similar to Jesse, my family, mum and dad. It's funny, I mean, I had a long time to think then, obviously while you guys were going back and forth, and I would say the experiences and opportunities that I've had in my life too. Yeah. But then I kind of trace those back to the values that were instilled in me by my mum and dad.
Wow. And what were they?
I think treating everyone with respect would definitely be one. Working really hard, not taking things for granted. Yeah, it's funny, I'd say like probably had a middle class upbringing. Yeah. But my mum and dad just cared about the right things, and they were never about the material possessions, but they bent over backwards for myself and my sister in terms of whatever it was, you know, sport, or that they would just make sure whatever we wanted to do, they would be there and make time for it. And give us all the opportunities. And if it wasn't for that, you know, I mean, back to the butterfly effect. Who knows how my life turns out. So
100%.
Yeah, it's funny as I think about everything, and you know, I've had a lot of cool, amazing experiences over the years. It all dates back to that foundation that was set by them.
So beautiful, man. That's like so special. And I think I can relate to you. When your parents work for you like that, you feel like it's almost your right to go and take life by the balls because they work their ass off for you. I can definitely relate to that.
It's funny, I do think about it, and now that we're getting, you know, a little bit older and further into life, you kind of think about, you know, just down the line, like parenthood and kind of the maybe the father you want to be.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking like it's going to be so hard to be a better father than my dad was, or a better parent. Right.
But you will naturally because you experienced that. So you're very lucky that you get to pass that on.
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, they set the bar extremely high.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think I'd be interested to understand, like, where do you think your ambition for business came from for both of you? from, like, and maybe this is stemming from that question with your family, but where do you think it came from for you?
For me, back to probably that foundation is I just felt like the world was my oyster and nothing was too big, and I was going to be supported in whatever it was that I aspired to be or aspired to do. And yes, I would think it comes from that mindset, that warmth in knowing that I will be supported in whatever it is that I wanted to do.
Wow.
Just such an important thing.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be in your life, you know, very closely through those moments, and I can remember vividly some of those conversations you had with your parents. And, you know, as Jack just said, his father and his mother would be at every sporting event, and Jack played basketball pretty much every day of his life for 15 years.
Sounds like it.
And they were so supportive of that journey. And I remember Jack just went, I'm going to throw that all to the wayside because I've got big ideas with business.
Wow.
And they just, what
a leap.
It was a huge leap. And, you know, Jack's still torn within himself in that moment. And I just saw them take it on board. And within a matter of moments, they're like, okay, like,
wow,
that's the support. I remember.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, it's hard to put words on it, to be honest. Yeah.
It's beautiful, man. It's very and how about you, man?
Somewhat similar, I think, definitely from within the family. I think from like a real business perspective, my grandpa is Peter Jackson, the suit guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's my mum's dad.
Cool.
So, yeah, I think within that perspective of like clothing, and I was into clothing when I was very young, like op shopping, like 12 years of age. I could leave, you know, finish my school day and just rummage through the racks and chuck up, you know, any brand name I could find on Facebook and try sell it.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah, that's what I did.
That hustler mentality.
I did, man. Yeah, I don't know. I just loved that concept of buying and selling. And yeah, I think I only got to meet Peter probably till I was about 10 or 11. But you know, he was a character, and just all the stories I hear of him and what he was able to achieve, I think somewhat, again, unconsciously instilled this idea of like, go out there, explore. Because he was very revolutionary from, he had like barbershops within the stores. And
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Just then like the furnishing of the stores was like concrete and different types of textures, and
so cool.
Of that time through like the 60s and stuff, people were like never seen anything like it. So
wow.
Yeah, I think there's something in that.
Definitely, mate. That forms you for sure. And like having a male like figure in your life like that is so inspiring. Like I relate to that. Like my grandpa's very similar. He ran kind of like a tech agency / like agency, I suppose. He came out of the army and started selling like the computers from the army to businesses and systems.
All those years ago too.
Yeah.
I mean, breaking edge.
Yeah.
Driving door to door. It would have been a lot different to these days.
Yeah, definitely.
Those big computers.
No TikTok dances.
They weigh like 50 kilos of
literally,
like,
he looks at what we do now and he's like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
So different. And just growing up and sitting as a little kid, listening to him talk, I just remember thinking, this guy can talk. Like, he's just so inspiring the way he holds himself. So subconsciously, I think that maybe is where mine came from as well. But also probably similar to you, Jack, with my parents, like they both worked 3 jobs so that we could go to a private school and get a good education. So I saw them like really working. And I think for me, a part of my conditioning, I suppose, around money and freedom came from not seeing my parents live the freedom that they deserve. So I wanted to create that for myself and enjoy life and be able to set up a life where I want to retire pretty young, and give back to my parents. So
special, man.
Yeah.
Very.
That's probably one of the, I'd say, if you ask a lot of entrepreneurs or people running their own businesses, I feel like that would be near the top of the list in, people's why, like why are they doing it? I think that giving back to family that sacrificed for you to be in the position that you are would be extremely common.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I can definitely relate to that a lot.
The thing that I struggle with that is I had this convo with Guy on one of our podcasts is like a lot of successful people, they're driven by like either fear or love, right? And when I really dive into a lot of the feelings around money, and a lot of it comes from fear for me, to be honest.
Definitely.
Which is something that I'm really trying to work on and change my relationship with money and finance and business. And when we went through that scenario with CC, it really triggered a lot. And I really had to work through that and figure out for me how I could connect to my mission of, love rather than fear, and the passion for doing it rather than for money. And yeah, it's been a journey.
Sounds like business for you has almost been like a personal development journey in a sense too. Like that's been the vehicle through which you've come out of this turbulent time at 17, 18 and you've jumped straight into business virtually, and that journey, I guess, begun to where you are currently.
Definitely. Yeah, I think we were saying before that like business is life. Life is business. And how much we learn from business that takes into our personality and who we are. I'm constantly being humbled and told lessons in my day-to-day. But I think I'm very grateful for those early experiences. It really helped me understand people and how to communicate to people, and how I didn't want to be as a person. And so it's made me hold myself in a particular way in business where I know who I am. So I'm able to hold myself in a grounded place. And there's been times in the business where I've been tested and my stress levels have been through the roof, which has really forced me to learn how to regulate and ground myself. I'll be honest, there were moments where I'd wake up in the morning and have a panic attack because I'd have 25 meetings that day and half of them were problems and I didn't know how to handle them. And I'd walk into the day like, here we go. So breathwork's been a massive part of my journey in learning how to regulate my central nervous system and calm myself and realize that it's okay. There's always a way.
A real common theme I'm seeing for you, Hugh, is like you get thrown these obstacles, which lots of people do in life. But what distinguishes you in a lot of ways is I think you have that optimistic view, and maybe it doesn't feel like that in the moment, but the outcomes and where you have been able to shift to, you've taken, I feel like you're at a crossroads and you can go left and sort of play the victim card and be like, oh my God, this is so hard, 25 meetings or all this bullying, because I am such an emotional person growing up and I don't want to hide that. There's a part of me that just has to be who I am. There's a lot of people that can form that emotional side of themselves, many more than not, I would say, and follow the status quo of their group. And then years and years later, they're confused about who they are, what they're doing with themselves. And it's because in those key moments at that crossroads, they didn't act at their authentic self. And I just want to give you a lot of credit, because I think me personally, and just, within my friendship groups, I think people really struggle, and perhaps it is because of social media as well. It's an added layer. There's so much more information, that just subverts everything within someone's life. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think it's also very hard to know who your authentic self is for a lot of people, because we are conditioned by society to think or be in a certain way, and 100%. By our groups.
100%.
Yeah.
I've heard you say that a few times on a few different podcasts, your authentic true self. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. This might sound a bit woo-woo, but I really experienced this last year for the first time. And for a long time, I was really holding on to external things as my identity. I was like, Hugh was a musician. Hugh was a business owner. Hugh was an entrepreneur. Hugh was this thing. And for the first time in my life, I felt like that wasn't me. And it was actually when I was at a breaking point last year. And weirdly enough, in that moment, like everything melted away and I realized that all I am is love.
Wow.
And I know that like that is really who I am, and that's all I have to share in everything that I do. And really where that love is coming from is my true being. And after feeling that, I really stepped into my childhood and really remembered what I was like as a kid. And like, this is the true Hugh. Hugh isn't this strong-hearted businessman who's like, doing all this stuff. No, that's not me. I am me as who I am now. And I think it's hard to peel back all those layers and really figure out who that person is for a lot of people, because you lose your way along the way. You're pushed to go down a certain path and you believe that you're this thing and your friends are telling you this thing. And so to really go into some deep reflection, I think is critical. And sometimes it might take something like a breathwork journey, where you're breathing for an hour. For some people, it's hallucinogenics. For some people, it's breaking points, but you can get there.
I've heard you mention like a weekend away is another really good thing, and I've written that down today. Yeah, I think to really spend that quality time with yourself, it's probably one of the most just had a choke up.
I get them all the time.
It's very timely. No, I think it's one of the most undervalued things in society right now. At a time where it's just cues left, right, and center.
So right,
stimuli, and we really need to spend some time asking ourselves, like, as you said, reflecting on like what were those moments for you, those crossroads.
Big time.
I feel like with the pace that life moves in today's world, and you would know this better than anyone, Hugh, being entrenched in social media, it's so easy to go from, that 10-year-old kid to that 30-year-old man working in a career and
in a blink,
literally,
and not have stopped once to question maybe something or think about who you really are, or what that 10-year-old boy was aspiring to be, or where you change paths. And so if a breathing exercise forces you to sit down and think about that, those are the kind of things that people need to be seriously thinking about.
100%.
Because otherwise you just keep on the hamster wheel.
I completely agree, man.
And you wake up at 30, 50, 70.
Yeah, and it's scary.
It's too late, yeah.
That's probably one of my biggest fears. To live life and not really live it and not know who you are or where you're going. I think a lot of people have that, and it's sad. But yeah, taking those weekends and those moments, even if it's, for 5 minutes during a busy day, going and sitting in the sun and just breathing. But for me, like going away and surfing on the weekends and not going out and drinking all the time, and like, yes, enjoying that here and there, but like, instead of just like falling into the norm of what your friends are doing, take yourself on a date. Sometimes I even just go to a coffee shop and read a book and journal for like half an hour, and it feels like fulfilling because I'm thinking about life and I'm like, can actually digest what's going on. So yeah, it's a big thing for me.
Speaking of your fears, I think we've had a discussion earlier about one of your fears is starting from scratch. And I'd like for you to, again, dive deep on that. What does that look like? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. I think one of my fears in starting from scratch is like, I feel like I've worked so hard to be where I'm at, from like a business level especially, and from a personal growth journey. I think it's the idea of doing it on my own, to be honest. It's really interesting. I've done a lot for myself and I've done a lot with other people, right? And to go and do something out on my own without that support network and maybe having to figure things out by myself is really scary. I'm going to be really honest. I could say that, starting from scratch is like, it's easy. I've done it all before, but it's not.
Heavily relate, man. Heavily relate.
Yeah. It's scary. Very. And I think going back to that part of like my true self, when I kind of felt that there was this awakening of maybe I need to have a career change and think about how I can empower other people. And it's still very prevalent in my head. And tricky combo last night in my potty with Guy. Yeah, I asked him the question from a game. What's one thing that you think I could change that would make my life a whole lot better? And he said, stop creative converters. And I was like, oh.
It's not what you wanted to hear.
Yeah.
It's annoying when a friend that you trust and respect a lot tells you something that has been brewing and
Yeah, but it was real. And and that's one thing I really respect in friends is the honesty and the ability to say something that's so real that most people wouldn't. And there's elements to it that are so real for me that I'm like really thinking about challenging my fears and honoring my edge. I think we all need to honor our edge of discomfort and challenge it compassionately. So it might not necessarily be about fully exiting and completely doing something else, but working away to a point where I'm filling that hole with my purpose.
Yeah, starting that journey. So funny, yeah, man. I want to dive in on with starting from scratch. Is there like a fear of inadequacy? And I mean, you're so competent in certain areas, but like any human being, you're gonna have room for improvement. You sort of scared in certain areas like that you couldn't maybe run the same successful businesses on your own, or?
Yeah, definitely, to be honest. There are certain, I think, gaps in my knowledge set that are pretty important when it comes to business. Like this whole thing around money and fear. Like for me, I'd be able to fully manage a cash flow of a business by myself and not have people that pull me into account and question things. I don't know if I'd fully trust myself, which is kind of scary. So that's like my big lesson this year. It's like really learning how to manage a P&L, and that's what my business partner is really helping me with.
Cool.
And yeah, just learning about some of those things that I don't touch, because we have accountants and a CFO and a finance team that do all that.
Sure.
And I kind of have meetings every month and go, okay, great. We got some net profit, happy days.
Yeah. Keep spending.
Yeah. I think the fear for me from going out, and I've considered, going and starting like a wellness studio in a community space that men can come to and talk and connect and regulate their nervous system. The fear is in the financial liability of that and not making it positively cash flow geared and it failing and losing all this money. That's brutally honest. That's where my head's at. But I know that there's a passion to it that needs to happen.
It's interesting. I would challenge that, because I feel like back to you with like love at the center of your being. I think the moment you step foot in that wellness center, everything will feel so right, because it's so who you are. And regardless if you made $5 million within your first year or you lost squillions of dollars, like I don't think it's going to matter. I really don't, because I think you've been on this journey where you've lost a lot of money and made a lot of money. But I think the only thing that's different in this scenario is this is something that's really who you are.
Yeah.
I think you've gone on this beautiful journey through Creative Converters and you've learned some invaluable things. But I think that next evolution potentially is really diving into who you are, man. It's really exciting.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, brother. It's had a moment there when you were talking. I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Me too. As I was saying it, I was like, holy moly, yeah. It's crazy.
So cool, man. It's crazy having those kind of realizations like as you talk. I think that's the value of like having like male friends and connections like this, because you can't do this on your own. You can't think like this on your own. And having a conversation, it's almost like a fatherly voice of reason that you might not confine and get in your girlfriend, for example.
Sure.
So yeah, I really value this and I appreciate it.
With the wellness idea, has that stemmed from anywhere? I know you had an experience with a shaman.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to go into that and
yeah,
maybe whether that's impacted, that business idea in any way.
Yeah, for sure it has. So not only that, but where the shaman came from was I was struggling, for a while. I had a pretty traumatic experience where I kind of got beaten up and had brain damage and all this stuff. And there's a lot of physical pain. And my mum was just like trying to help me in whatever way she could. And my mum's a psychologist and she was very helpful, but I didn't always want to listen to her, as her son. And she booked in a massage for me. And it wasn't a massage. I rocked into this place. It was somewhere in East Melbourne, and it was like a healing center, and it had crystals everywhere and all these weird images of angels on the walls. And I was like, all right, this is a bit weird, but who knows? Massage, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Feel good.
Yeah.
after Happy Days, Sleep Like a Baby. Rocked in and she looks at my body and she's like, oh, your left side's down. Like, she started just looking at me and adjusting me and stuff. And the moment that I met her, she had this really kind, loving look in her eyes, and I knew there was something more. And turns out she was a shaman from South America, and she's probably in her 50s, and her grandma had taught her how to connect to a higher, like a spirit or a realm, and she would channel these spirits to understand. And I think she really had this amazing intuition with people, and she was actually physically doing like lomi lomi massage, and when she would feel parts of my body, she would talk to me about it, and she knew what happened when she touched parts of my body. And I was just, it was like this crazy cathartic healing experience, like someone that just understood you like no one had ever understood you, like not even my mum, like not even my girlfriend at the time. It was like, wow. Like I was literally lost for words.
Physically and mentally?
Yeah. I felt alleviated of pain, and I felt heard and understood in a way where I'd felt frustrated in the past because no one had understood me. And she knew everything that had ever happened to me, and I was like, this is insane. So I went and saw her pretty much like once a month for a long time, for about a year. And she was probably the first person that really like instilled this inner belief in me other than me and my parents. And the big thing that she just kept saying was let go. And after every session, she would say something about the calendar and the moon, and a big shift's about to happen for you. And every time I went there, I'd leave and I'd feel like I'm changing, I'm growing, I'm getting better. And after a while, I was healed, like quite literally. It was insane.
Wow. That's crazy.
And so that was probably one of the biggest life-changing experiences I've ever had in such like a wholesome, therapeutic way. And yeah, more recently, just reflecting on that, I realized like I would love to be able to do that for people. It'd be so cool. Obviously don't have the shaman background or the...
Not yet.
Gotta go to South America first,
Yeah.
sounds like.
Yeah. But that's kind of where my openness to a different world of thinking came from, because it quite literally changed my life. And I fully believe that there's an element to healing that doesn't come from Western medicine, that comes from intuition and another world of thinking and love. And I think she was just giving me her true love in her essence, purest form.
Wow, man.
It's an incredible story.
I mean, back to your openness, right? Like I think, again, common theme in your life, you've attended this place, and I don't know, to be honest, if I'm you in that moment, I'm looking at those crystals, I'm probably like an 18-year-old kid, I'm probably, turning around like, my mum's got no idea, but you've just accepted it and been open to the experience. And again, I think that's what you'd be an incredible teacher of as well for young men that are clearly struggling right now in a lot of regards. And I think openness is just something that's probably the number one thing that's going out the window a lot. People just aren't open to new ideas, new opinions, new values. Yeah, you're so right, man. So I think that definitely kick-started it, and was lucky enough to have, and I'd love to ask you about this as well, Jackie, where like Breathwork started for you, but for me, I went to a workshop. I was listening to these guys' podcast from Cool to Be Conscious. Started this movement in Australia where they'd set up breathwork communities all around Australia, and I went to one of their workshops, and it was like an incredibly safe space where you did like a good 45-minute breathe and you were guided, and all these different exercises that would actually trigger your trauma, bring it to the surface, and then they'd learn and help you regulate from that. Wow.
So that's where it started for me, and I think breathwork's been a big part of my life since, and it's something that I want to help pass on to other people. But where does it come from you? Like, where did it start?
It's interesting. I think for me it was very much more a personal journey rather than in like a group environment.
Yeah.
It started with guided breath work. I think just from being, kind of more like from a high performance athlete lens, always looking for things to get that extra edge or listening to different people about what works for them. And it was probably just during a time where everything was very high pressure. I had a lot on my plate. It was when I was in the States, so when I was at college playing basketball, and I felt that just doing that I used to do it just first thing in the morning as I woke up, and it just was like a really amazing grounding technique for me,
Bro,
and
that's
just
amazing.
cleared my mind, and my days were infinitely better when I did it. So I kept doing it, and
Sick.
and it just kind of grew from there. I got a bit more explorative with it, and I like where you took it with, you know, some explorative breathing in 45 minutes. I'm like, fuck, that sounds amazing. Because when you come out of a breathing session like that, it is one of the craziest feelings you'll ever have.
Yeah, it's mental, hey?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like you find this like deeper connection to yourself, but also something else, like something that's universal that's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a clarity.
Yeah.
I think, when you come out of it. And yeah, back to your point, just slowing down. There's a lot of value in just slowing down and doing something as simple as just focusing on your breath. And again, something we neglect these days with how quickly we move and all the problems that we build up in our minds that we think we have, and we don't even breathe properly anymore.
Yeah, it's mental.
Crazy.
And that one thing can have such a massive difference on
Huge.
how you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. How about you? Have you dived into breathwork?
I haven't particularly, no. Yeah, just some other forms of meditation really, but breathwork something I'm definitely open to. Yeah, I'd love to explore it.
Sick. We'll have a sesh.
Done.
What kind of meditation have you done? Have you done like guided stuff or just your own?
I went to India for some university in 2019.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So cool.
It was cool, man. It was really cool. And headed over there, and we're in a really remote part of India. It was just kind of at this university campus, and one of the teachers there was like, you know, if anyone wants to rock up next, like tomorrow morning, I'm running like these meditations. So it's kind of, that was one of my first experiences with it all.
Sick.
Yeah. And
What a place to learn.
yeah.
The mecca.
Yeah, it was. It was yeah, thrown into the deep end, but like in the best possible way, I think. And it was just like mantra based. I still remember the mantra, and I have an interesting relationship with meditation. Not sure, you know, we could be here for another hour, but maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But, maybe I'll speak to you off air, but I think for me, it's just recently too, I've had, I think, some different thoughts about perhaps, I think my meditation's been very, very stagnant and external. Like I treat it as almost like a chore of some sort, a task.
Yeah.
And I think the real key for myself is bringing that into each and every moment of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, man.
Thank you, man. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm in that transition. Yeah, I'm trying to figure all that out. So yeah, I won't speak on what I don't know.
But also I think it also takes time. Like I couldn't just sit there and sit still before I tried breathwork or before I tried other forms of meditation. And I really think, like Jack's saying, like it made him feel amazing. I think you need to be motivated to do something by how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
And so if sitting there and just listening to your thoughts doesn't make you feel better, then it's probably not the form of meditation to do, you know?
Yeah. Nice, simply put.
Yeah. And there's so many different types of meditation. I think it just takes exploring and figuring out what works for you. I had a pretty cool coach that I worked with for a while in Qigong who taught me about energy cultivation and breath. He was like a Qigong master that's been studying it for like 40 years. You know?
Wow.
And for a good 3 months, we did the one exercise because that was how he was taught. But I found that the sensation that you feel in your body when you're moving energy was just so empowering and amazing that's what made me stick to it. And so I really think that you need to feel something from it to want to do more of it. You know.
Certainly agree.
Well put. Really well put.
It's probably the same with your running. You know, you stick to it because you feel amazing.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's your meditation.
Yeah, to a degree. But I think being aware of, you know, not wanting to just have running as that in my life, I think it's limiting in a degree. I think there's room for more exploration, not just saying running's that for me, like I'm done, I'm all sorted out with my mindset. I know that's not the case.
So whilst we're talking about exploring, Hugh, you're off to Bali in a month's time.
Sure am.
You're very excited about that, and you've been telling us all about what that looks like.
Yeah.
I guess, what does that look like?
Yeah. It came from wanting to enjoy more, I suppose, work-life balance and more freedom in life. And I really believe in the law of fair exchange. where things in life happen for you when you're in fair exchange. And what fair exchange is when you're giving, you're getting back. And in a business setting, I think I've been giving and giving. And yes, you get the exchange of the monetary part, but there are many benefits of owning and running a business that you can get a lot more from. And I think when something serves you, you are more inspired to do more and to drive that more. And I think for me, part of fair exchange is freedom and living somewhere where I can surf every day and be in a community of like-minded, connected people. And I had a chat with my business partner, and I was going to move to Torquay because I have a good group of friends down there, and I feel like that lifestyle supports that. But then he said, why not Bali? We can work online, and we have a team that would probably want to move there. So we put it to the team, and probably about a quarter put up their hand and said, yeah, let's go to Bali.
Wow.
So, yeah, we're going to Canggu in about 3.5 weeks, and just going to get a co-working space. And I think it's time for me to try and, travel and be in fair exchange a bit more.
Amazing, man.
I love that. And first time overseas?
Yeah, proper first time overseas. Been hustling for a while, so it's time to...
You're going to transform so much. Like, it's just... I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy said he thought the biggest transformations in terms of physical environment has to be travel.
Yeah.
You're just thrown literally into these cultures and different languages and cuisines, and Bali is maybe the second Melbourne, but I'm sure you'll travel around and get a taste for everything.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the plan. And to be honest, I'm a little bit scared, which is
good,
interesting. I think you can get pretty comfortable, and what I've got going on works. It works for me now.
Correct. And
I'm probably in the best place that I've ever been. So a part of me is I don't want to ruin that, but at the same time, I know that I need to do this to challenge myself, and I know there's something waiting on the other side that's going to be awesome.
Well said. I think that's the perfect place to wrap up. That's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
I want to know about you guys.
Definitely.
Yeah. You guys, you guys...
forget about us.
Yeah, I can't forget about you.
I forget about us all the time now.
Yeah. You guys are definitely on a journey, and I think just from listening to your poddies and just having chats about, the business and how committed you guys are to this, I feel like it's really important for the listeners to kind of see, how big this is for you. So where do you see yourselves in 12 months?
Well, to answer the first part, how big this is for us, I'll throw the cliche down. It is everything. I think similar to your journey with creative converters and being creative yourself, musician, wanting to monetize, I think, the whole reason of this podcast is information.
Yeah.
And what you've shared today, Hugh, is just, I'm really lost for words. I'm so proud that, we can record something like this, and, people can listen to this for years to come. And I just know the value people will receive. And that's really, again, to repeat myself, it's the whole reason we're out here. There's so many lessons, and I know you can relate. Coming up, there was no resources.
Yeah.
Very few.
Yeah.
No playbook. And for us to be that for people to a small degree, every journey is different. And, and people embark on those journeys very differently. But from the outreaches we've had with young brands starting and just saying, thank you. I'm so much further ahead. Man. And I was that kid, and as were you, and as is Digby filming this podcast at 19, very young. And to have a playbook in front of you is just, if someone was to give you that back then, and don't get me wrong, there's a huge argument to, go your own road. And I believe solely in that, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of help on the side.
Oh, definitely, man. And if you guys can look back and you're literally documenting this as well, which is really cool. So if you can look back and know that you've just laid the path for some other people, it's pretty powerful. And also your openness and willingness to share that, because people get selfish with their IP, So being like me being open and sharing that is a beautiful thing. I really like that.
Yeah, a big principle of ours is radical transparency. And it was coined by Ray Dalio.
Wow.
Extremely intelligent man. I'd recommend anyone to just type his name into Google if you want to get some gems. But yeah, I think that's how we've guided a lot of our decision making up to this point and in our journey so far, and just being authentic. And I think that's cutting through in today's age when there's so much fake stuff out there that it's hard to, find real information. So if we can be that for people.
And I think the wholesale side of our business it's incredible to how it can fit our values, because unless we're selling to brands and they're doing incredibly well, we're not doing well, because they drive our business.
Literally.
So we have to fully form relationships and support and care and give value and like really want to do that, because if we don't give enough value, then we don't exist.
Yeah, it's
a mutual relationship.
It's a really strong, positive feedback loop that you guys are building.
It's cool.
Massive.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's because I've worked in previous business models, and you can say you care to the 10th degree, but the reality is unless your model aligns with your values, it's very tough.
Yeah,
because there is intrinsic clashes.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm sure you understand. And I think for this, I kind of pinch myself sometimes that I can speak with brands and give them all of myself, and hold back nothing, none of no little secrets that I know. Because if they implement them and they go incredible, then we do.
Wow. Such a smart business model. I love it.
Thank you.
To answer your second question there about where we think we'll be in 12 months, I think the answer is we probably don't know, which is just with the pace that things are moving at the moment. But something that having our conversation that we did about you moving to Bali and talking about work-life balance, that's definitely something that me and Jesse are focusing on. And kind of upon our conversation the other day, it came at a really good time when you spoke on that, and it was what we needed to hear in that exact moment.
Yeah, wow.
And so we're definitely, we have aspirations to travel the world with this, and try to see what we can do, and experience and explore lots of different cultures and see the world through this vehicle being the business.
Yeah.
Back to your point that it gives you so much more than just this monetary value. So I think really excited to see how we can do that and leverage technology in this world that we live in.
Definitely. It's so possible. I love that's come from that convo. It's really exciting. Because I feel like some people get just stuck going head down and they lose sight of what's important. And we were just saying that before. So I love the way you guys are thinking, and it's exciting.
Yeah, I think in the immediate, something tangible is definitely getting into state. Screen printers for us, it's sort of another match made in heaven. We go hand in hand, so it's really important that we build those relationships, not just here in Melbourne, but all across Australia. So we'll be around, and that's a little call out to the screen printers. Get ready, keep your doors open. That'll be cool, and that gives us a real sort of vision to get across, and I think that will only spread overseas.
Amazing. Well, let's have a party in 12 months' time.
Yeah, done. Lock it in.
I'm very excited to see where you guys will be.
Likewise, man.
Right back at you.
I have no doubt it's going to be a very good place.
I appreciate that.
Ditto.
Thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you.
It's been
Thanks
epic.
for having me.
It's been amazing.
It's been a really good combo.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Learned a lot myself.
Too good.
Yeah. Thanks, boys.
That's
Appreciate
it. Thanks, guys.
I'm pretty sure that's a hug.